planet to the 6th orbit from the Sun to learn about Saturn. Saturn has a diameter of 120,536 kilometers, which is almost 10 times larger than the diameter of Earth. Saturn is the 6th planet from the Sun at a distance of 1.4 billion kilometers, or 9.5 AU. It takes Saturn almost 30 Earth years to orbit the Sun once, but it only takes 10 hours and 14 minutes to complete one rotation. Saturn's thick atmosphere of hydrogen and helium and its distance from the Sun keep the average temperature low at negative 170 degrees Celsius. Saturn has 95 times more mass than Earth. This means that Saturn produces a strong gravity that has pulled at least 31 moons into an orbit around the planet. In addition, Saturn has many rings or continuous disks of debris that circle the planet. Even though Saturn has almost 10 times more mass than Earth, it has the lowest density of all the planets in the solar system. In fact, Saturn's density is so low that the planet would float if it were placed in liquid water. Like Jupiter, Saturn may also have a surface of liquid hydrogen, and it has powerful storms similar in size to the Great Red Spot. In addition, the different gases in Saturn's atmosphere also line up to form bands that circle the entire planet. Saturn's biggest moon, Titan, is the second biggest moon in the solar system. Probably the most notable features of Saturn are the large rings that circle the planet, which you will learn about next. Saturn has distinct rings. Each ring is made of thousands of rings, known as ringlets. Even though the rings look like one solid disk, they are actually made of millions of particles of ice, dust, and rock that have their own separate orbits around Saturn. The individual particles can be as small as a sand grain or as large as a kilometer wide. Even though Saturn's rings are no more than 1.5 kilometers thick, we can see them from Earth because the ice in the rings reflect the sun's light like snow on a sunny day. No one really knows for sure how the rings formed, but scientists believe that a large planetary body, possibly a moon or a huge piece of rock, may have produced the material in the rings. This large body was probably destroyed and broke up into millions of small pieces of rock and ice. The opposing gravities of Saturn and its moons held the individual particles in specific orbits around Saturn. This formed the thousands of individual ringlets that make up Saturn's rings. Drag the planet to the 7th orbit from the Sun to learn about Uranus. Uranus has a diameter of 51,118 kilometers and is located almost 2.9 billion kilometers, or 19.1 AU, away from the Sun, making it the 7th planet in the solar system. It takes Uranus 84 Earth years to complete one revolution around the Sun, and 17 hours and 14 minutes to complete one rotation. Like Venus, Uranus experiences retrograde rotation, so it rotates in the opposite direction than it revolves around the Sun. Because it is so far from the Sun, the average temperature on Uranus is negative 200 degrees Celsius. Uranus is 15 times more massive than Earth. Uranus' mass produces enough gravity to hold at least 27 moons in orbit around it. Uranus also has rings that circle the planet. However, Uranus' rings are less visible than Saturn's because they contain less ice. The atmosphere of Uranus is made of a thick layer of hydrogen, helium, and methane gases. The methane in the atmosphere forms a thick cloud layer that absorbs red and yellow light, but reflects blue and green light. This gives Uranus its distinctive blue-green color. Scientists believe that Uranus has a small rocky core that is surrounded by a thick layer of ice. The really unusual aspect of Uranus is that its poles are positioned nearly parallel to the planet's orbit. This is unusual because the poles of most planets are oriented close to perpendicular with their orbits. This means that Uranus rotates on its side as it orbits the Sun. Because Uranus sits on its side, the north and south poles only receive sunlight during half of its orbit. Since Uranus takes 84 Earth years to revolve around the Sun, this means each pole will receive sunlight or darkness for 42 years.